If you were here last time, I'm sorry you guys have to hear my voice again, what's left of it. But just real, I'll give you a quick rundown of who I am because these guys tower over me, so I don't want to be the last one to go. Um, but my name is Michael Ramirez. I've got a couple different companies, a consulting firm. We have a co-man, but we also have a brand. And I've been involved in the space, and specifically the drink space, back when we were in California taking a 5 gallon jug of water, putting a little oil in it, putting some Kool-Aid, shaking it, putting it in bottles, and we'd sell it in the medical market. That's the original cannabis drinks in California. That was way back. Obviously, they evolved. I've got I still have a ownership in a co-man and a grow out in California. It is the largest co-man there is in the regulated space because of politics. We can't sell hemp-based drinks there. And we'll talk about that a little bit. And Ted and I have been on that front line in the beginning and fought together up there in the California space. But I've seen the evolution of drinks, and I've also seen who's fighting us and who's getting along with us, who's our friends and who's our foes. And those are very important because it's it's what they say when you're not around that defines a friend and a foe in this industry, right? Especially when you're doing lobbying. And it's sometimes it's great, and when we've also have some really bad days as well. But the reason why we really wanted to do this panel, and I talked with the guys, I'm so happy with AltBev and you guys. The first time coming out of the gate and doing what you're doing is amazing. So I think that's real important to have more of this. And when they did AltBev, they couldn't have picked a better time in the climate that we're in to have a conversation like this. It just happened. And so I asked a couple of my buddies who we're part of different associations and committees, and we've done work in multiple states, and these guys certainly have done a significant amount of work at the federal level, that we want to squash rumors because I'll be honest with you, just peeking in, we've heard a lot. We've heard a lot of untruths even, and we hear it on the floor. So what you're going to get from us is just some real brutally honest things. I tell everybody as a consultant, you got to tell people when they have an ugly baby, right? Because you want to sell drinks, and you're not going to sell a drink if it's ugly, and meaning that that's in the inside too. You're going to hear that kind of brutally honest thing. So there is no question out there that you cannot ask. We're going to have a lot of Q&A time. So please ask the questions. Don't walk away. Don't wait to come up, because if you have a question, someone else also has that question and might be afraid to say it. So please, please ask the questions, and you can interrupt us at any time. Mr. Chris.
I'm Chris Fonts, founder and operator of High Spirits Beverages. Kind of pioneered this whole hemp-derived Delta-9 category. Was the first person to do that under a brand called Trojan Horse Cannabis. We pivoted pretty quick, about a year into the beverages, launched the first hemp-derived Delta-9 beverage, have been part of, I think, every association in one way, shape, or form in the space. I'm currently president of U.S. Hemp Authority. I'm on the board of U.S. Hemp Roundtable, strategic advisor to Hemp Beverage Alliance, although that's quasi, not a real role anymore. I was policy co-chair on the policy committee of Cannabis Beverage Association here with Mike. That's where we met back in the day before it evolved into CABA. Well, I guess it didn't evolve into CABA, but CABA happened. And yeah, I've been policy chair of NIHC, and I could go on, but I'm heavily involved, built the category, taught the early operators how to do it, and then went and started plowing the policy road so that we can keep it.
Thanks, Chris. Is this thing on?
It does not sound like it.
How's that? Oh, my name's Ted Whitney. I'm Chief Beverage Officer for Cheech and Chong. I was 7 years in regulated cannabis. I've been 3 years in hemp. I was 20 years in beer distribution. And this industry represented salvation as I saw it. What I saw when I worked in regulated cannabis were a host of regulatory schemes that just didn't work, that kneecapped all of us, that created ecosystems that were utterly unsurvivable, especially for people just trying to express craft. What I saw in hemp was the ability to fix all of that. We all know it's one plant. We all know it's getting out there. We all know that public demand exists. What we need to help is regulators understand better what it means for us to get safely and responsibly to market. And what I've been so inspired by both Mike and Chris with is watching their policy work. I'm a connector. I'm not one of the initiators of a lot of the policy work that Chris has been so great about. What I excel at is connecting people in the background to help get these things funded, to help people see how important getting a good outcome here is, and to just be talking to more people about more things that really matter in a data and fact-backed way. And it's so important that we hold ourselves accountable to bringing forward the right facts, to making sure that we're on talking points with our industry associations, to making sure that we all speak the cannabis creed, the hemp creed, and we say it before dinner every fucking night and say it the same way. Or after dinner. I don't care when you like to smoke. You can do both.
It's the background, how we're all tied together. Like Chris and I were on this committee for a lot of years together. We've talked a ton of times together. And believe it or not, this is the first time we ever met in person. I've known Chris for years. Ted and I known each other for a long time before he was with another company. I don't want to say their name. They're not around anymore, and it's a really good thing that they're not. They're trash because we have people that trash us in our own industry, making false claims. And Ted and I could say we come from more of the regulated market in the beginning because it's where Cheech and Chong. I used to do all the procurement for flour for Cheech and Chong. Know the family very well, as obviously Ted does. And so you can't get more nostalgic than Cheech and Chong in California. To tell you how bad the political climate is, Ted, is Cheech and Chong in California anymore?
No.
Exactly. This is their backyard. And so when we fought in the beginning for the hemp side in California, there was me, and then this is a big industry. There was me, and there was Ted, and there was Jonathan Black the first time. That was it. We were there, the ones that got up, and it was already halfway through. We just found out, like, what the hell's going on? We get there, and it was wild. But this is the stuff that we're faced with, and they love it, and especially in a political climate. I'll get off my soapbox in a minute, but they love to do sneaky crap behind the door. Everybody knows that, right? It doesn't matter what state you're in. They love to make sneaky changes, and they got pretty far with this one. And it wasn't until the news popped up and it said, Cheech and Chong are here to save the day, kind of thing. It was plastered all over the Sacramento Bee, which is a really bad newspaper, and it was somewhat on the news. But most mainstream media would not pick it up, and this is something crazy. Cheech or Chong, which they would never would, but if they got a DUI, it would be plastered everywhere. So this is the climate that we're facing, and all we're trying to do, really, believe it or not, a lot of us still believe this is medicine and getting the medicine to the people. We had the medical side of cannabis in California, which was the best time in California. I'm not going to lie. The 215 era was the best medical market, and because we didn't have taxes, we didn't have all the other stuff. But now, and for every dollar pretty much that you spend on a brand, 45% plus is taxes in California. It's insane. This is why nobody can do, and then you don't even have a right to make people pay you. So we have this great market that came up, was this hemp market. It's normalized. It's helping with normalization of cannabis. That was a really big deal as well. Plus, it's giving people an option. Like, we don't want to sit there, and you won't hear this from us. We're not going to bag on alcohol. We're not going to bag on the medical market. What we're doing is what we believe Americans should have another right to put what they want in their body, and this is really good stuff. This is a great alternative, and that's anything that you see that we have. So now I'll get off my soapbox, and we'll try to stay. I'm sorry, Ted. Ted's giving me big eyes right now. That's not good. So
I took a long lap on the sampling rounds. That's all that was.
So yeah. Where do federal hemp laws currently stand, and how are agencies interpreting in them for beverages? And when we're talking on the federal side.
I mean, right now we're still living in a space where the definition change has not yet taken effect. So the law is 0.4 milligrams per container of THC. But that law, while it's law now, the effective date of that specific portion is not until November 12th, 2026. And because of that, we're still operating under the same 2018 Farm Bill that we have been this whole time. FDA is still like, you can't do that, but like, I'm not going to stop you, right? So don't be stupid and keep doing what you're doing. So that's what we're doing. We're still doing that. State-by-state regulations obviously more complicated, but from a federal standpoint, currently, it's the same as it was for the past 8 years now.
You good?
That was perfect. I have nothing
That
to
was
add.
perfect. Oh, I know. I love that movie. It was a good movie. Um, how many people here from the regulated market? So this is everybody's from the hemp. I mean, that started in the
Who
regulated
got
market.
robbed this month?
Yeah, who doesn't have
It's the same
insurance?
question.
There's a lot of things we could say. When we had to transform from the regulated market into the hemp market, the whole time we still look over our shoulder, going, "When are they coming?" When and us who come from cannabis, it's real because in California, we were doing things in Florida that were not state. They were state legal, but they weren't federally legal. When we entered into the hemp world, we're like, "Oh my, this is like real business. This is unbelievable. Like a distributor's paying me money. We're actually. I mean, it was a great transition. So we got really really excited with hemp, and we're still there, and we really do believe in it. And it's THC that I tell everybody because I have a couple of clients that have it in regulated and have it in hemp. They're not creating a hemp brand. They're not creating a cannabis brand. They're creating a THC brand is what they're creating. And that's how you get a nationwide brand out of that. And it's really helped a lot of folks. It certainly helped us with our brand. How are state laws how are state laws affecting our fight at the federal level? I should say affecting it positively or negatively.
I, I would say that state laws right now are more influenced by what's going on at the federal level because they feel emboldened to try to take away something that's doing really well. And I think what's unfortunate is that's really driven by a lot of ignorance on the part of lawmakers. And I don't mean that in like, you assholes or idiots. It's more that the lawmakers need to know a little bit about a bazillion things, and they excel at knowing a little bit about this thing. They think that, oh, this is a terrible intoxicant. This is something that we want to have in other states, but not here. We need to do a better job of educating lawmakers. And really, that's going to be the primary way that we influence anything at the state level. And I don't see positive interplay coming from the feds down to the states. If anything, the states are emboldened with that cognitive dissonance. And that's where we just need to be talking to our representatives. And if you don't regularly email your representatives, go home and do it. Just let them know what's important to you, no matter what it is. Just like, hey, SNAP is important, healthcare is important, human rights are important, so is hemp. And let them know where you stand on the issues. Those conversations are important.
Yeah, I'm going to piggyback off that and say it's not just influencing this way, not just influence. It's symbiotic right now to some extent. The states are watching the feds are watching the states. States move, feds react, or make a statement or make a comment behind closed doors, and then another state does something totally different. And we're sort of watching what happens when no one's in control and trying to figure out who's going to be in control. And so everyone thinking like, well, where's this going? How's this happening? I heard from someone that there's 700 people that are in control, and we're trying to whittle it down to one reality, and that's really hard. And so states are watching the feds. Some of them are okay, think about it. You're a state senator or a congressperson, and your session goes from January to June. You won't be in session in November when products in your state could become illegal. So do you want to get in front of it and make it illegal now before it hits you in the off season? Or do you want to go, we'll deal with that problem when we get there, and then maybe next January, if it's illegal, we'll deal with it at that point. That's what state Congress is dealing with right now. So they're looking at the feds, some of them, because they're hoping for guidance before their session's over. And some of them are like, I don't care what the feds do. This has been bringing in tax dollars for a little bit now, and we're going to hold on to it. And it's just really a crapshoot out there.
Yeah, and some people think it's a red versus blue thing. It's just we take all that out when we talk about business because there's friends on both sides and there's certainly foes on both sides, and it could be with states. I mean, you look at California when it went to the regulated market. It wasn't under a president that was a Republican, so it wasn't a really grudge. You have to take that out, and you have to find your friends on both sides. And believe it or not, there is in every state. There is. Sometimes it takes a magical check to get them at a campaign to make them happy, but you got to do what you got to do. You're playing the game that everybody else is playing, and it's not always a fun game. But you get out there, get passionate. And these guys said something that it still resonates in my head. don't be afraid to get out there and email and talk. Don't, if you're quiet, that means you accept. Silence is accepting. But getting out there and doing an email that, I mean, you spend less time on Instagram writing an email. Get out there and just do one. Let them know. You might be surprised on the reaction you get back. People want to know. Otherwise, the naysayers are way louder than us right now, and we have to change that. And I think we're getting there. So there's certainly some states that that I see that have been more proactive, that have done very well, and that's why you see. I don't want to call lobbyists because we're not lobbyists. We just have something to say. And we see us going into different states. I mean, I spoke to somebody about Georgia before. I spoke on Missoula. We wrote all the regulation for Montana, and we're hoping that it goes through this next session. But they have a session every 2 years, so it takes a little time. But when we tried it last time, we had the Tavern Association against us. We had all these different alcohol groups against us, and why we were here on Friday. And John, this is one of my partners, John. We have a partner up there that is in Missoula, is very well connected all the way up through the governor's office. And he texted us multiple times on how many politicians are now calling him because the Tavern Association wants us to do this now because they've lost so much money. They need something else to sell. It's all about money to them. And to watch this change happen, it was shocking compared to this time last year where we got the middle finger all the way through.
To add to that, so I'm in Colorado. And Colorado was a semi-undefined market. It wasn't totally gray. Hemp had rules, but they hadn't really considered the implications of impairing hemp and having a marijuana program at the same time. So as this promulgated over time, likely because I was there and loud and I won't shut up, they started to catch on, and the marijuana lobbyists thought very quickly and said, we need to shut this shit down. So they lobbied really hard for a year to shut us down, and we were able to block the ban into a study in a working group. So then the next year we did a study in a working group, which by law in Colorado, they have to stack the deck with industry people, right? So what did they do? They grabbed all the people that grew industrial hemp and hate cannabinoids and put them on to say they represent the hemp industry. And lo and behold, a year later, they recommended they ban us, and we got a ban. It's not a ban. We do have 1.75 milligrams with a 15-to-1 ratio, which we do have products in market at that level, and they do move, but they move slowly. But case in point, after this whole 2 years, countless human hours, revenue lost, pain, I cried a bunch of times. It was painful. And 2 years later, well, a year after the 2-year fight, I get reached out to by the same law firm that shut everything down and was driving the lobbying fight there and said, hey, we're trying to bring hemp beverages into Colorado up to a 5 or 10 milligram limit. We need $5,000 a month for this deal. Would you fund us so we can get this going? And I was like, no, I will not give. I would have had the money to give you if you hadn't fucked my business so hard that I don't have money to give you now. So I'm letting them do it on their own, and it's working, and I'm not paying for it, which is great. But we are going to get 5 milligrams back in Colorado. So even as egregious and aggressive as they were, even they were like, ooh, we swung wrong on this one. Let's go back and fix this. So even a lot of these states that hated us, to your point, are starting to come around because they're like, what are we thinking? This is an amazing revenue channel for us.
Making sure that representatives have the right facts, I think, is critical. Everybody struggles with what is the market actually worth and what is the human cost. Is this actually a better thing for everybody? What we see in markets where we're selling hemp beverage are retailers who have 20% of their revenue coming from 3 of the drinks on their list right now. We see that DUIs are going down. We actually had a legislator in Colorado, of all places, say, well, actually, since recreational cannabis came on, DUIs are up 17%. Look at the rest of the facts. Colorado's population's up 24% in the same period. So DUI per capita actually goes down in that moment. The legislator didn't know that fact. So the way people spin data is going to be problematic, and we've got to really know our shit so you can be in front of that. But know how to battle the talking points and always push back. Always dig into the figures, always get back to facts, get emotion out of it, and just the facts are on our side. We don't need to spin anything about hemp or cannabis. This is actually good for everybody. We just need to know our shit inside out.
And I'll say I'm very supportive of what he just said. This doesn't contradict it, but this is good advice for someone who's going to go like lobby hard, right? You're going to be in there all the time. You're going to push it, know your stuff. If you don't know that stuff and you're a little nervous to learn it, that doesn't mean you can't be helpful. You can still call your congressman or your senator and say, this is really important to me. It is a voting decision. This is how it helps me and my family. And if they say, what about this? What about that? Say, like, I don't know about all that, but I can tell you my anecdotal story that's really important to me and my voters and my voting family, right? You don't have to be an expert to lobby for the industry on behalf of yourself as an advocate.
And those emotional stories actually carry a ton of weight, especially with representatives.
Yeah, absolutely. And some of the things that we've seen is you'll have a person from the assembly or person from the Senate that will come up and they have their one hero with a story that how somebody died from something. And it resonates all the way across. We could bring 15 stories of how vets have replaced all their drugs with natural medicines, right? Kratom, dabbing in a kava, but certainly into the regulated market of cannabis and THC drinks that are derived from hemp. We could say that all day long, but we still have an uphill battle because there's a stigma that sits out there. But the tides are really truly are changing, but you have to get involved. Get to an association. We've heard on the floor, we didn't correct anybody, but we've heard so many different rumors that weren't true. So now what we're going to do is we're going to get down to what you guys really want to hear. So what I want to hear from you guys is what's the next 12 to 16 months look like at the federal sorry, just gave me a look at the federal level, and it's some real truth. And guys and gals, this is not opinion. These are the folks who are in the offices, who are at the Capitol doing the work. And the most important part, nobody likes to be told no. And it happens all the time when we go in there and advocate for this, but these are the folks that were doing it. So please trust this, take this information and pass it out because this is not rumor.
All right, I'm going to go first and then let Chris clean up what I say. The reality at the federal level right now is that there's an appetite to have regulated, well-manufactured, age-gated, controlled products in the market. So having a low-dose hemp beverage is very palatable to legislators. If we don't speak with one voice, that idea doesn't go anywhere. It starts to fall apart, and that's where we really need that hemp creed. When people are like, well, what defines low dose? 25 is low for me. So fucking what? 5 milligrams is what we're going to be able to get. That's what the actual appetite is with legislators. We're not going to be able to swim upstream on this one. We have to agree 5 milligrams per container, per serving is reasonable, and that's what we can get. We need to accept that, and we need to stop going outside of what's going to move forward out there. We can land and we can expand, but if we lose this category, it's going to be years to bring it back. Us keeping this category means that we speak with one voice around what reasonable regulation looks like, and we don't undercut the rest of the crowd. We really need to accept this reality. Of course I want to have bigger drinks. Of course I feel like everyone should be entitled to better access to recreation and relief. But we need to start with these small steps, and we need to be able to move this forward. The reality is the deck is massively stacked against us. But if we can work together, if we can speak with one voice about what can advance, we can get this done.
Yeah, I don't. There's nothing to clean up there. That's all absolutely wonderful advice and very accurate. Look, guys, I'm a risk taker by nature, and I'm a cannabis activist by nature. I was the first person to look at the hemp bill and go, well, shit, I'm putting THC in edibles and sending it through the mail now because I can, and got the first legal opinion, and then sent it through the mail and called USPS and said, hey, that weed I just shipped isn't weed, it's hemp, so here's the law, don't seize it, and I got put on their white list and was allowed to ship this all over the country. I'm a risk taker by nature. I want all this stuff active. I have 50 milligram drinks. I have 30 milligram gummies. I don't think I'll be able to sell those very soon. Is it sad for me? Yes. But is it pragmatic? Absolutely. And up until this point, you may find me on a podcast saying, hey, we're dumb to talk about milligram caps right now. And at that time we were. And today, I don't think it's smart for us to be working necessarily with a senator saying we advocate for X milligram caps. What I think is smart is to say, what are you comfortable with? And they said 5 milligrams, and we say, you got it, right? It's a big difference of approach. I'm not saying 5 milligrams is where we should be, but I'm saying 5 milligrams is likely where we are. And we're lucky if we get that, to be honest. We could end up in like a 3 milligram category. Whether we get this in what formats is often debatable. Look, right now the federal government's a little bit of black box. I'm close to a lot of these conversations, very close to a lot of these conversations, and I'm close to a lot of people that are close to the other side of the conversations. And not even all the people that are touching the black box all agree on how things are going, if that gives you any insight. So there's a little bit of confusion of what's happening, which is why you may hear someone say, I definitively know with people in the room this is happening. And someone says, I definitively know this is happening, and they're contradictory because both those people are in the room and both those are coming out with different talking points and talking on different days about old information or maybe something that might happen tomorrow. It's moving very fast, it's very fluid and very dynamic. As of right now, I expect we'll see well, I won't say beverage carve out in the regards of how the industry normally uses it, because we normally think beverage carve out is fuck everything else, beverage only, right? I think we're going to see a beverage channel defined that will be more or less owned by alcohol, probably 3-tier system. Lucky if we get any D2C, and if we do, it'll probably be based on case volume like craft beer is or something like that. I wouldn't doubt it if we ended up in like bonded warehouses and things like that. And while I personally would like to see that, actually, I think it's good for industry. I don't know if that's first round here. It'll be forced 3-tier. On the non-beverage side, I think we'll end up in more of a wellness category, 3 to 5 milligrams, likely with a pretty significant CBD ratio. If we even get gummies, it might only be tinctures. We'll see. Now that's hard for me to say because I have half my business comes from gummies, and half of that business, or a third of that business, is high dose, and probably 60% of my beverages are high dose, but they're different markets. And right now, that market is not the desire of the federal government. So they'll probably put the slap down on that one, and we'll have to focus more on low dose strategy. And we're going to be, I won't say happy to do so, but also happy to do so, if that makes any sense. I'm stoked to have an opportunity for the federal government to say, oh, you want to sell THC in a can? You can. Because right now they're like, you can't. And I'm like, please. And they're like, no. And then they just turn around. And I'm like, well, I'm going to do it anyway. But like now I want them to watch me do it and not, threaten to throw me in jail later.
Well, I think part of that is us creating the excise tax structure that's necessary to give an incentive to the government to regulate this.
Yep.
We involve a tremendous amount of revenue. We can do so much good with this. We can fund schools. We can get governments the revenue that they need. We can also take bites out of the illicit market. And I have a lot of friends who transit in the traditional market. I think that it's important, but it only exists because we didn't create a better path. Let's create a better path. I don't know anyone that wants to stay in the illicit market. Everybody wants to do business the right way. It'd be so much easier for everybody, but let's make it so much easier for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. You get it. Some of the numbers when we come out of the California market, about 80% of the weed that's grown there ends up in the black market. It's a pretty significant number when we talk about how much we pay in taxes. People try to do the right thing in dispensaries. It's tough. But, when people keep referring to this as a ban, and people would keep referring to what the federal government did as a negative thing. I was sitting on the plane when I got the word, and I'm sitting next to a guy who was drinking Woodford. I celebrated when I seen it, because if I ever want my drink next to his on that plane, we have to go through this together. We have to go through the tunnel together, and we hope on the other side that everything's going to be great. But which I really do believe it is. I think that the cat's out of the box. Ain't going to get it back in now. And now we want this regulation to channel us and keep everything proper because we want normalization. Every grower, not every grower. If you're north of me in Sacramento, it's a little different. South of me, every grower wants normalization of the cannabis product. When they changed it to a Schedule III drug, right? Celebrations. It's not that easy. They could celebrate all they want, but the problem is how many people here have regulation over cannabis that they live in, right? Florida has regulation over cannabis. A lot of them do. How many have it over hemp? They're going to have to go back and change all those laws to satisfy what they just did with Schedule III. That's going to take a long time. Nothing moves fast in legislation, and I still believe with all my heart that the 364 or 5 days that they gave us was a gift to say, clean your shit up, get rid of the bad players, and don't put the unicorns that are shitting out things on the cans and are trying to just do the right thing. And that's what this gift was. And now we have collectively, for the very first time that I've been in cannabis, one voice Like we have how many different associations? I mean, all of us, we're part of multiple associations who everybody had their own opinion on what we should do at the federal level, and they've never been there. You know, they've never even been to Washington D.C. They don't know how that system works. So we've have people, and I'll tell you, I know they're not paid any extra money to do what they do. And if you're a business owner, which like Mario was up here from Pharaohs and a bunch of other folks who get up there and spend their own time and money to advocate for us, Chris is the reason why we're here today, in my opinion. If it wasn't for Chris figuring out the farm bill, we wouldn't have the hemp category. Someone else would have had to pop it up. But believe it or not, it's because of his action of studying that bill. And and to me, he's a pretty smart guy. He figured that piece out. That's the reason why we have hemp drinks today. That's the reason why we have a hemp category today. It took one person. So when we talk about people don't have a voice, they don't want to email their senators or any, this is the living proof that that one voice does make a difference. And we see it all over the place. This isn't just one state. We see, we do a significant amount of work in Tennessee, changing laws coming up, right? It was supposed to change in January. Now it's June. Totally different landscape. So everybody has to maneuver and figure that out. But the good thing is they have a very good association all that answers all these questions in Tennessee, and it's one voice. There's one voice out there, and that's what if you're not a part of something, you need to, and just even if it's just information you're pulling from them, but get it from a reputable source. Go ahead.
I'm going to throw out a hot take, and I don't mean to be divisive because I'm usually the guy that like hugs everybody and loves everybody, and I do. I love everybody, and I almost never say anything mean about people even when they deserve it. But I'm gonna make a hot take right now. If you're making money in any way, shape, or form out of the hemp industry, and you're not either donating dollars or donating time, then get the fuck out of our industry right now. Yeah. Because it is fucking exhausting to do all the work that we've been doing and to watch other people who are like, you guys got this, I'm just gonna make money. I'm like, fuck you, buddy. Like, give me some of your money instead. How about that? Like, yeah, it's very irritating. And so like, please, and it doesn't have to be a lot. If you're like, hey man, I can afford $100 a year. Cool. Do that. Find someone, put it on a horse, let it go, right? You're like, all I can do is email my congressmen and my senators. Good, do that. Whatever it is, for crying out loud, do something. We need everybody to be working this because those OGs are getting real tired of being out in front, taking arrows in the back and punches in the face at the same time. And over the last couple of years, a lot of people have stood up. We've got more momentum, more people are activated, more people are getting engaged than ever before. That's why we have the momentum. And thank you for saying that, like, we're all here because of me, but we're all here because of us. If I did this by myself and was out there on an island, I probably would have accidentally committed suicide a couple years ago. So it had to be all of us, and all of us are doing the work here. So thank you for doing the work. Keep doing the work. It's necessary.
Speaking of doing the work, I got to go catch a plane, and I'm so sorry. I got to run.
That's okay. Does anybody have any questions from the crowd? I know this was really quick. I know it's the end of the show. It's always the worst time, but they felt this was important to get out there to try because now we're on video, so it's everywhere. So.
Jody James, president of Florida Cannabis Action Network, worked 28 years in Florida doing advocacy work for public education. Right now, the 160 lawmakers is our primary scope. What are we doing to protect consumers? You know, my people are going to take your product and they're going to lose their job. And until we get into Congress and remove the Drug-Free Workplace Act, which is obsolete since the 80s, but I don't hear anybody talking about that. And that, how many consumers are not taking these products? And the other thing, we had one of the vendors over here say to our friend, and we are the Cannabis Action Network, hey, I don't use cannabis. I use THC. So how are you helping the cannabis industry or the cannabis perception by isolating THC and just talking about THC beverages? Those would be my questions.
These are great questions. So a couple things.
Sit down with me. We'll have more.
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, as far as generalized consumer safety, I've been volunteering for years as the president of the U.S. Hemp Authority, and we've been developing and adopting standards. We adopt standards that are available, and we develop standards where they're not yet ready. So we've adopted ASTM standards for both our IICP, which is the little yellow logo that you got. I adopted that shit before it was even approved at ASTM back for my own brand. We adopt that. We adopt their branding, their label guidelines, and any other thing they're coming out with that we can get behind and put into the market. We're going to require that for the certification, and then we are making significant moves to basically turn U.S. Hemp Authority, it might be rebranded under a different name, but turning it into a real self-regulatory organization like FINRA or SQF or NSF or UL. And if we can pull this off, which is the goal, then pretty much every product that goes through the hemp industry would have to have the stamp on it. And if it doesn't, it gets kicked out. FDA gets notified. And that way we're protecting consumers that what's in the can is in the can and what's on the label is in the can. And if it doesn't say you're going to fail a drug test, then it's not on the shelf, right? So people are at least notified of the concerns and whatever is in the can is represented on the inside. So that's step one. Regarding the decriminalization of THC, intoxication or impairment, or in your blood system for your analysis and these sorts of things, I am super passionate about this. I am a social equity application recipient in the state of Colorado. I've been persecuted multiple times. I've lost jobs. I've been on probation. Like, I'm very familiar with this problem. And the reality is we can't fight it all at the same time as much as we would like to. Right now in hemp, you're not allowed to get a license if you had a felony in the last 10 years. Right? Same thing. This is federally. We're trying to work on that, and they're like, maybe if you're growing fiber, you can be a felon, but not if you're touching cannabinoids. So we're so far away from saying, oh, you can continue to keep your job if you have THC in your blood from a federal level. Like, we're just trying to push there. And as much as I would love to say it's an all or nothing package, I have not seen all or nothing work anywhere, anytime in a completely holistic manner. Sometimes you do need industry banding together and you need like an 80% or nothing, but we're just not there anymore. We've got our asses handed to us and we're begging for survival at this point. So consumer safety, USHA, drug testing, huge on my priority list, but sort of like a phase 2 likely. And then I'll say, what are we doing to help cannabis in general? So for me, I use the terminology that all cannabis is cannabis. Then legally speaking, there's marijuana and there's hemp. So for me, cannabis normalization looks like someone who's like, I'll never smoke that weed shit, enjoying cannabis. And that's what we're doing with drinks, and that's why I launched it in the first place. We've never had more rapid acceptance of THC in the space than through drinks. I also don't love isolation. I can have long conversations about why I actually think type 3 cultivars, fractionated Delta 9, is actually a more holistic distillate than type 1 cultivar distillate. And we'd love to talk to you about that. But I'm a huge proponent of multiple cannabinoids, minor cannabinoids. I actually think the marijuana industry has overbred THC to be too high, so we're breeding the minors out. So if you want to talk about isolation, let's get our breeders to stop breeding high THC only strains, and let's put some other cannabinoids in that thing.
I think that comes with a lot of that's people learning in the market. There's a lot of stuff, but there is been some small wins. Let's talk about one in particular. For the longest time, if you're a blackjack dealer in Las Vegas, you're under federal control in every single one of those casinos. You got tested. It's not a case anymore. They don't get tested anymore. That's a significant amount of employees when you look at a state like Nevada that has a smaller population, but it was a huge win. And that happened not by us. That was their association that really started pushing that. And so when we see small wins like that, it does re-energize us to get out there to get beat up some more. But did
the Teamsters just have some movement on this?
They
too?
did. They sure did.
Yeah,
Yep.
That's another huge win.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we're
bingo.
getting there. And there's
Bingo.
protected.
Thank you. I love it.
Yeah, there's sensitive, and this is what they're really called, because this is back when I worked for the fire department. I worked for the fire department for 22 years. I was an assistant chief in the state of California, and I was in law enforcement, barman, arson, and all that. But we got tested because we had a commercial driver's license on top of it. But we were tested because we're in a sensitive position. There's a lot of sensitive positions out there that are truck drivers, things like that, that they're not ready to give up on yet. Now, they need more data. They're not going to take a bunch of people from the sticks that, like, we were growing weed and selling it in the black market and tell us, hey, no, it's okay when you're not on it. They're not going. They need data, and we got to give it to them. But that comes from both sides working together, and that is happening. Data is being created all over the place.
Yeah, well done.
Yeah, I'm actually the video engineer. I've been recording the panels all weekend. And somebody on the other previous panel said that you were one of the first gentlemen to create a cannabis drink. Is that? I want to know, what does that accomplishment mean to you personally, and what is the driving force of for you to keep doing what you do as a activist in the industry?
Great. I think the driving force is a mental illness, I'm sure. Um, no sane person keeps doing this year after year. I mean, I'm a programmer. Like, I was making so much more money in tech than I was in here, and so I don't really know what's wrong with me. Um, yeah, exactly. I'm pretty insane. No, my drive honestly is cannabis normalization. So, on a very personal level, I'll make this quick so it's not boring, but I didn't have a great childhood. I didn't have a lot of friends, and the first time I smoked pot with some friends, I was the kid that everyone's like, "Oh, hang out with us so we can make fun of you." Like, I was that guy. And then we all got high, and all of a sudden it was an even playing field. And handled my weed pretty good. And they're like, "Oh, damn, Chris, you can hit a couple bowls and still function." And I was like, "Yeah, let's go." And all of a sudden I was the cool guy because I could handle my weed. And it totally changed not just my perspective on my relationship with myself and my relationship with other people, but it changed my perspective of what it means to fit into society, and how people are all just struggling to connect to other people. And man, 14 years of my life dealing with being the person that nobody liked, and in a 3-minute bowl, all of a sudden it was an even playing field. I was like, holy shit, this has real potential for change, for compassion, for empathy. And I started thinking this should be a requirement. Like, everyone should have to smoke weed when they turn 18, at least for a year, to figure their shit out. And then I tried mushrooms, and I was like, holy shit, this is a different thing. They need to do this too. But that's my drive, is cannabis normalization. Look, it solves, it's not a silver bullet, but the reason people say that it is because it almost is. Right, so that's my drive and my passion, and the reason I put it in the can was to increase that normalization, because people will do a habit they're already doing if you replace the product. If you're a beer drinker and you don't smoke weed, you're not going to suddenly start hitting a bong. It's a big jump. But to just take the can out of your hand and give you a different can and be like, "Don't look at the contents, just have a good time," they're gonna have a good time, and it's proving out all over the country right now.
So we're not advocating for all the 18-year-olds to start smoking weed, though, just so you know.
Yeah.
But
Yes, that was my
but
personal story, which is a cautionary tale.
I guarantee Chris and I started smoking weed way before
Yes,
that.
entertainment value
So,
only.
I mean, everybody has a story of why they got in, and some are really passionate. Mine's twofold. My dad died of cancer. My dad was in law enforcement. I was tested as a kid. I tested my kids. You know, it's just we lived a really regimented life. But when he passed of cancer, and I found a prescription for it in his drawer, first I was very angry. But then I was like, why? So the medic side of me kicked in. I was like, why? The why was the science side. My dad was a recovered alcoholic for 30 years. He would not take anything that was addictive as a drug from the doctor. He lived the last 3 months of his life were miserable, really, really bad in pain, and could hardly walk. And he couldn't take anything for the pain. And he never got that prescription filled. So why? I wanted to know why. Why didn't he? It was a logistical issue, and that's why I had the 6th cannabis distribution license in California. I went after that market, and for me, I have one of the highest levels of post-traumatic stress. I'm not even kidding you. I've got 6 binders that are 3.5 inch thick on my life, and it's wild. I was taking 6 drugs twice a day for it. I haven't taken anything. I've taken aspirin. I think the last count was like 11 or 12, I have it marked on a piece of paper, times in 7 years. I have not taken any type of drug from a doctor. Everything I do is natural. And it was all started with that, though. Everything I'm doing started with that. Got into drinks because I wanted normalization. I could sell that. I can get people to believe in what I believe in. We're doing this with psychedelics as well. Like, everything that we're doing is towards natural medicine and get people off of things. And it changed my life. And I want to change. It changed my wife's life, changed my kid's life. My kid is full time. Well, I can't say too much about what he does. It's to say, his whole job is counter drug, and on a national or international level. And that's my son. That's my, and we. He believes in what we're doing, and he understands why. I have more vets, including my brother, who did everything they had to do, that I've weaned off of their drugs and put them on this. And again, it's not a stab at pharmaceuticals, because they've done some good and they've done a lot of bad. But this is an option. Again, we want to give everybody in America options.
Everybody hates big pharma until you have an infection and you're like, "Ooh, antibiotics are awesome," right? To your point, not all pharma is bad. Some pharma is good, but again, it's not the silver bullet. It cures some things, but not everything. And some things it just makes worse. Some things it just masks, right? And this is a totally different option that can be recreational, but there's a saying out there which I don't fully believe, but the heart of it I do believe, which is all marijuana use or all cannabis use is medicinal. And I do think that you can abuse cannabis, and I think that we should talk about that as an industry more because we pretend you can't. We pretend there's no problems with it. You can do whatever you want. That's not true. But I do believe the majority are going to have a pleasant experience and generally a positive change in their life from consumption instead of a negative change. And that's a wild place to be. Like, wait, it's fun and healthy? Like, maybe pickleball is like the closest thing, but that's it.
I sit around the folks. We have a lot of health nuts that we hang around. I love them. They're great, and they'll get up there. They will love alcohol. We're drinking alcohol. They get it all lined up, and they'll drink some. And I have this little dropper, and I drop one drop, and it's 10 milligrams in a soda water with muddled mint. And John's seen this a million times, but muddled mint and orange. And I just drink that, and they go, "Wow, what is that?" And I told them what it was, and I said, "Yeah, I'm drinking like 2 calories." And you're drinking how much, and sugars and carcinogens. We get all into it, but I get just as well with that one drop. I'm feeling pretty good, and price wise and everything. But we get everybody. We're getting alcohol knocking on our doors, and pharmaceuticals not too far away. We welcome everybody into this because we need normalization. And again, we're not drawing lines to fight. We're welcoming, and that's what's needed when we're doing a legislative thing. And it needs to be one voice. It cannot say it enough. Don't be the rumor spreader unless you know. Get out there and correct people because things are in the positive light right now, not a negative one.
I was saying that I've always thought that the medical side of cannabis. Sorry, I lost my train of thought.
You're okay.
Oh, sorry. I always thought I've been smoking cannabis since I'm 14 years old. It's always been a part of my life. I'm at the middle part of my life right now. It's always been around. We've always heard about medical versus recreational versus all these different terms and forms and all this kind of stuff. In my mind and in everyone's mind, I would think that medical cannabis would go through, regardless of FDA and all those other testing and everything, but you would get a medicine in a form that's more common for people, pill form, injectables, things like that from a doctor, high potency for certain applications, whether it's cancer or other types of things, right? How far are we from that? Or do you think that this is a step toward that? Or do you think that that's just universes away?
You know, it's here already. We've had suppositories. We've
For
had
sure,
all
yeah.
this for
Seen
years
the
and years.
forms.
Yeah, right. And we do have functional doctors. Like I work with UC Davis. UC Davis has an amazing functional doctors. They also have a full cannabis program at UC Davis. They have a full psychedelic program, and they are prescribing these things. But they're learning, and it takes time for them to break down what we built so they understand what they're giving to their patients. But I see that here already. And again, it depends what state, because it's a federal thing right now, but it does depend what state. But I see it. I see so many different things. I have a gentleman that works out of New York that he was the guy who invented a straw, and it's the straw is laced with cannabis. And as little kids with cancer drink their juice, they get intake of cancer or of cancer killing items plus the cannabis to soothe their pain. That's been happening for 10 years. This gentleman has done this. And it's absolutely amazing at some of the innovation that's out there. It's just not talked about because one of them, they don't want to target on them, but they're doing good work. And it to me, it is turning. Everybody knows on how much federal government is paying right now in the psychedelic world to reverse post-traumatic stress in vets. That's the exact same thing. It is coming. Again, it comes honestly really to me, and Chris, please jump in, but it comes to data is what is going to control when those things will be really regulated and killing lobbyists. we do, and that's lobbyists for everywhere.
So
Some, yeah.
yeah, and some of the complication here, right? Like you said, it already exists in pill form through Marinol and Epidiolex, and yes, this other one that was mentioned. But here's a problem that no one really thinks about, that those of us that are in the space are banging our heads against the wall constantly. FDA their entire program is built off of a single molecule concept. What does this one molecule do in a hyper-focused, hyper-controlled environment? And if we can prove that it can do this one thing in this hyper-controlled environment, then we'll allow it to be in the market for that specific use and that specific use only. This is why you see things like semaglutide. Oh, it lowers your weight and it fixes your diabetes. Okay, I'm fat. Can I take it? No, you don't have diabetes. But we know it's going to fix my fat problem. Yeah, but we didn't actually test it for that. That was just a side effect, so you can't use it for that. What? You know it does this, right? So they have to do whole new trials with that as the stated aim in order to even get that product to be able to market it for that specific thing, right? So in cannabis, how many cannabinoids are there, right? 145 plus. Then there's terpenes, which we know are beneficial. Then there's stuff that a lot of people probably don't even know yet. Like terpenes are less important than we thought they were. They're important, but VSCs and esters are super important. There's other terpenols. There's other things in there. There's all polyphenols. We don't know what they all are yet, and we don't know how they work. So you're trying to take a 700 compound plant that's variable. Even if you stabilize the genetics, every plant is going to have some minor variation, and then saying, now put this through trials to prove it can do X, Y, Z, but every time we give it to you, it's going to be a different 700 compounds. And the FDA is like, I don't know what to fucking do with this. So
Yeah. It's complicated.
the future of this, if we want multi-compound medicines from a pharmaceutical grade level, it's going to be a medical cannabis program or something like this that we have today, or it's going to be the FDA is going to have to spin up a new chapter of itself or change its own internal regulations to just operate from a fundamentally different manner than they have been since their inception.
There's some other things too when you think about, like, for example, when I make a drink, depending on which location, what we were doing in Canoga Park, water. We strip it completely out of everything out of water, every mineral, all that, right? But we put back what we want in. There's going to be some stuff as I think that evolves, that when we get more science behind it, they're going to be able to strip out, in which they do now. They can strip out a cannabinoid now out of it and just pull one. We all know that. We get down to some of those really minute processes. You're going to see that, and they're going to put back what they want in. And I really do believe that's not that far away. We do it with drinks. I mean, and we do it with certain emulsions, but it's not 100% yet. And until it can be repeated over and over and over again anywhere in the United States, then there's always going to be this controversial conversation of, well, it's different because it's this plant, or it's just genetics and it came from here versus there. But that, again, why regulation is so important is to get us guardrails, to get us on a common path together, and embrace it. Don't be afraid of regulation, and embrace it. With that, I'm sorry, we went over 2 minutes over time. Thank you, everybody. Thank you again, Chris. Chris, we always say hits is made for legends. Chris is, to me, is a legend, and he may not like it or not. He doesn't like to be put on spot, but it's so important to know who the pioneers are, and that there are people that had one idea who got us here, and it's people like Chris and Ted and everybody does the hard work. It's thankless work, it's celebrate your wins, try to forget about your losses, and keep going. Thank you for the AltBev guys.
Thank you, guys.
Ryan, thank you guys.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Before you guys get out of here, what can we do? Where do we follow you? Like, for people that need to know, what do we do? Where do we find the information on what the moves are, who we should write? Like, where can we find you, or what do you suggest we follow so that we know we can take action with you?
You can follow me on LinkedIn. It's probably the place I'm most prominent. I kind of hate I hate all social media, actually, even though I use it constantly. So LinkedIn's probably the place you'll best find me and see, like, me thinking out loud and, talking shit to everybody else, stirring in the pot a little bit. As far as getting activated yourself, I would advocate for you to I would probably look for a state chapter to try to get involved in. If there is not a state chapter in your state, or you talk to them and you just don't vibe, that's okay. Pick one of the national hemp associations, but not probably National Hemp Association. They kind of hate us. one of the other national hemp associations other than National Hemp Association to choose, and then start supporting them. Get on their email list, throw them a couple bucks. If you can afford to join any of them as an actual member, please do so. That's what I would do.
Awesome. Thank you.
That is super important. Start with your states, get involved, talk to people. There are people that are light years ahead of all of us that within each of those states. Don't be afraid. I'm the same. LinkedIn is the easiest way to get a hold of me. I don't say as many things as probably Chris does out there, but you'll find there's a lot. But I tell you, a lot of people think that in the hemp world in California we lost because, but we won. We beat the bill that was banning us. But it wasn't until, I'm sorry, I'm going to cuss a little bit, until that asshole Gavin Newsom and all the wineries and pieces that he owns along with Pelosi and whatnot, they're the ones that did the executive order that banned us. They're the ones who did it after we beat them in the legislature. And it was tough. We beat them. They had the strong arm. They already threw the House. And we stood up, and there was 3 of us that really did the fight and got all the legislators to kill it in committee. And the next day, Newsom did what he did and banned hemp, and it was detrimental to the brands. And it was terrible. It was bad business, and that was to protect the wineries. Really still believe that to this day. They're down 27% in sales in Napa. It's pretty significant, 27%. And they're not, and it's still going down. I went up there the other day for a birthday party, and it was dead. And I have not seen that since the 80s. Napa used to be a place nobody wanted to live in the 80s, and it's changing. So get
They
involved.
better put some THC in that stuff. Quick.
Can I have a closing statement? So earlier something was said, and I'm gonna kind of contradict, but then reaffirm at the same time. And what you just said kind of spun this off. So earlier I heard multiple people say deep, not wide, deep, not wide, deep, not wide. Right? This is Beverage 101, deep, not wide. Mike probably preaches deep, not wide. It's common sense and it's smart. I did not do that on purpose. I told everyone I'm not doing that. And I would get on stage and say, I'm going wide and shallow. Fuck all you guys. I'm doing it my own way. The reason I did that is because I was not capitally backed. I had every dollar invested into what I was doing. If I put everything I had into California and then, yeah, we beat the bill, and then one stroke of a pen, my entire business would have been gone if I put deep into California. So early in the days, I used to preach wide, not deep exclusively. Not because it's a better mantra for beverage, because it's a better mantra for a quasi-regulated, very volatile industry. If you don't have the capital to take it, if you could take it in the pants when you lose a state and be like, oof, I got to dip into savings now, whatever, go deep. But if you don't have that, you have to go wide. Now it's a little bit different. Now you can start to see states that you can go deep in that you feel comfortable, like Minnesota. I would be very comfortable going deep in Minnesota. I'd be very comfortable going deep in Tennessee. There's a couple of states out there that are getting stable, and if that's your backyard and you want to go deep there, do it. If you're in a state that you can't even do anything in your backyard, I say pick a couple of states, go a little bit wide, not as wide as I did, but a couple of states to hedge your bets, see where the winner is starting to perform, and then deep in that state. But not so deep that if you lose it, you can't recover, right? Always watch your recovery pattern. If beverage is hard, man, it's real expensive. The inventory is tough. Shipping is tough. Capital is difficult. Just make sure that you're protecting yourself if you're out there, because it is very dangerous right now.